cataract surgery.
Oh, wow. Okay, so welcome back. I should
Thank you. Thank you.
should give you a speedy recovery, and you should
Thank
be
you.
seeing many good things. Use your vision for good things for many healthy years.
Amen. Amen.
We are holding here the Gemara on Mesechta Megillah, Daf Chav Gimel Amud Beis 23b, and the Gemara wants to know, why is a minyan 10 men? And the Gemara gave an answer. We have what's called the Gezerah Shava. We learn from a similarity of words in the Torah in different places. The word Eda means a congregation. V'nikdashti, the verse in Parshas Kedoshim says, V'nikdashti b'soich b'nei, Parshas Emor, and I will be sanctified among the Jewish people, means you need a congregation of people to say a davar shebekdusha, to say Hashem's name. Kol davar shebekdusha le'pachas me'asara, everything in holiness needs at least 10. My mashma, from why 10? Why not 15? Why not 7? The Tanya Rabbi says, Asya toich toich. We learn by means of a verbal analogy from the word toich, among. Ksiv hachav nikdashti b'soich b'nei Yisrael. It says, I will be sanctified among the Jewish people. Ksiv hasam madhibadlu metoich ha'eda. And it says, by the story of Korach was a rebellious one. And Korach, he tried making everybody equal by taking over the leadership of the Jewish people, and everyone should equally listen to him. And Hashem told Moshe Rabbeinu, separate yourself from among this congregation, this not good congregation. And how do you know a congregation is 10 people? The Asya, Eda, and we learn furthermore connotation of 10, the word congregation means 10 people, from the story of the 12 spies who went to the Moshe Rabbeinu sent to Eretz Yisrael. It says by the spies, after the spies came back and they told the Jews a negative report, and the nation started crying, and Hashem told Moshe, until when will this evil congregation speak negatively? And they are making slander and making the Jewish people complain. There are 12 spies. 2 of them, Yeshua and Kollel, said positive reports about Eretz Yisrael. So there are 10 spies who are saying slander about the Holy Land. And so we see that a congregation is 10 people. Mal halon asara afkan asara. And just as by the spies, a congregation was 10 people, therefore, a minyan must be made out of 10 people. And for this reason, when you have 10 people gathered together who did not daven with a minyan, and now they want to do what's called Piris al Shema, to say Hashem's name, to say Shema together with a blessing. The first blessing was Shema, of Yotzer Or V'Arei Choshech. Hashem creates darkness, He makes light. And we say during the first blessing, during Shacharis, Kadosh, Kadosh, Kadosh. Holy, holy, holy is Hashem's name. So whenever you do Kedusha, V'nigdashti, you want to sanctify Hashem's name, you need 10 people, 10 men. And similarly, the Mishnah listed many things that you need a minyan for, which is Birchas Kohanim, blessing of the Kohanim, and they bless the people in public and shul, reading the Torah, reading the Haftorah, doing the Maamar of Moshe, what will be done back in the day, more commonly, is on the way to bringing a bier, to be a person who passed away, to be buried. They would stop and start 7 times, and each time say different words and different verses of comfort or mourning, as well as afterwards there was a special blessing that was said, a Sheva Brachos, to say the 7 blessings for the Chassan and Kala, you need a minyan. To comfort the mourners was another blessing, you needed a minyan. as well as to say Hashem's name when we bench by the Rabbi side, as well as to make, if someone donated either the value of a person or the value of a property to the Beis HaMikdash, you need 10 people who are experts in appraising real estate to estimate how much it is, and one of them has to be a Kohen, and they appraise how much the value is, and that is a value that one has to pay to the Beis HaMikdash. So all these things, and then Gemara will go through one by one, you need at least 10. Beautiful Sikha of the Rebbe in Chelek Lamed Gimel. This is also a Sikha, this is what the Alter Rebbe says in Tanya, also in Pirkei Avos. How come we learn? I mean, the whole Sikha is over here. Here it is. The Sikha is in Chelek Lamed Gimel. It's the entire Sikha. How can we learn the halachas, the laws of a minyan, from the 10 spies? Learn how to have 10 tzaddikim. Like you said, there were 10 tzaddikim in Sodom, although not necessarily together. They weren't called a congregation. And we want to learn specifically about a congregation, but you can learn from the 10 brothers of Yosef who went down to Egypt, which the Yerushalmi actually does that. But here the Gemara Bavli learns from the 10 spies, who the Torah calls Anashim Heroim, the bad people, the evil people. And we learn the halachas, even a Sanhedrin. Sanhedrin has to be the greatest tzaddikim, the greatest Torah scholars and righteousness and knowledge and everything else. We learn this from here as well. Sanhedrin must be at least 23 judges. And a large city is 120 people based on the size of Sanhedrin. And he says the Eidah, the congregation shall save the plaintiff, the congregation shall accuse a plaintiff, and then you need 3 people then for a bezdin, 2 people, and it's not even, you make 3. We learn, and a congregation is 10 people, we learn from the spies. So a Sanhedrin being 23 people, we learn also from the spies. And the Torah calls the spies mardim, rebellious ones against Hashem. According to Chassidus, it's well explained that the spies actually wanted to stay in the desert, not to go to Israel, not because they were scared of the people of the land. That was an excuse they told the Jewish people. Because if they told them the real reason, the Jewish people wouldn't have wanted to stay in the desert. They wanted to stay in the desert so they could sit and learn Torah the whole day. And Kollel, no worries, no one to, you have food from heaven, you don't have to worry about your laundry, your babysitters built in. Everything was great. And so there actually was a very good thing that they wanted. What they were missing was that Hashem wants that we should get involved and do the mitzvahs that have to do with the land of Eretz Yisrael. But every single person, when you're davening, you have to be like the Meraglim in the sense that you forget about the world. The world doesn't exist. My mortgage that I have to pay, my boss waiting for me, it doesn't exist at all. And this is a positive thing to learn. And this is a minyan. We can learn from this. And they weren't making a mistake per se. They were just in the wrong time period, you could say. When Mashiach comes, we'll have a lot of the behavior of the Meraglim, or before the Torah was given, you can have the behavior of the Meraglim. With the Avos, Avram, Yitzchok, and Yaakov were shepherds, and the brothers, besides Yosef. The purpose of the Hashem giving the Torah wasn't for it to stay in the Beis Medrash, but rather to elevate the world. And every single person could serve Hashem properly. And the Sikha continues in that vein. That's a Sheva Brachas. Here is during COVID. If you remember, we had those outdoor minyanim. Yeah. The picture of an outdoor minyan in Eretz Yisrael. Here is a very interesting picture of the Rebbe. This is in the winter of the year 1977. Wow. The Prime Minister of Israel then, his name was Menachem Begin.
Yes.
So he came to the United States. This is before Camp David. This was the first Camp David, not the second Camp David. Second Camp David, where unfortunately, many negative things happened, which for a piece of paper, which was broken. The agreement was broken within 24 hours. But the first Camp David, so Menachem Begin, you would think he was the first righty prime minister in Israel, right? The first prime minister of Israel put on tefillin every single day, right? So you would think so when he came to America for the first time, and he was still, you say, strong, and he went and he met several great Gedolim. He met Moshe Feinstein, but he also went to the Rebbe. And so, Prime Minister of Israel is coming to 770. So the Secret Service said that you can't have, they wanted to block off the whole area of 770, and so there was a minyan of Ma'ariv. The Rebbe always went out for Ma'ariv at a certain time at 6:45 in the winter. Matter of fact, if you look at the clock, I think you could even see the time there. And so they had exactly the Secret Service asked they could have a minyan of only 10 people. Right, so they had a minyan of exactly 10 people. So you see the Rebbe, right, davening with only 10 people, including the secretaries and the people who are part of the staff of the inner circle. So this is a very unique picture of the Rebbe during that Ma'ariv of exactly 10 people. It was a well-known joke, a Yiddish joke. There was a person who was sitting Shiva. After he sat Shiva, he says he wanted to go to Shul and say Kaddish. And this person was someone who was very wealthy, so they called up the Gabbai of the Shul. And the Gabbai he told the Gabbai, can you make sure I have a minyan? I'll donate a very large amount of money towards the Shul. And the Gabbai was, sure, I'll arrange your minyan happily. Anyways, the person comes to the Shul, and there's exactly 2 people there, which is the Gabbai and the person who came to Shul. He asked the Gabbai, where's the minyan? He says, we have the minyan here. He says, how do you know? He says, in Yiddish it goes better, but me and you and I, and us together, we already have 6 people. Are you crazy? And besides, it's only 6 people, minyan is 10. He says, okay, let's look in the mirror over there. Now we'll have 12 people. He says, 12 people? Minyan, what are you going to do with the extra 2 people? He says, okay, fine. So me and you can leave, and they could daven with the minyan. It's an old Yiddish joke. But a minyan is very holy, is very special. If your tefillos, your prayers are always accepted with a minyan. And like it says, if in Tanya, if even one tzaddik, if even one angel would come to a place where 10 Jews are sitting together, the Shekhinah is so powerful that the Malach would burn up, it wouldn't be able to handle the holiness. Even if they're not learning Torah, definitely if they're learning Torah, as it says in Pirkei Avos, Akol Be'asara Shinta Sharia, wherever you have 10 people, Shekhinah Shruya learning Torah, the Shekhinah rest among them. So davening with the minyan is a tremendous, of course, a tremendous thing. Learning Torah with the minyan, of course, is also very important. But since the Jewish people are greater than the Torah, because it says the Jews were created 2,000 years, right? The neshamas, souls of Jews are above the Torah. That's why, in order to save a Jewish life, one may transgress the Torah to save a Jewish life. Therefore, even if the 10 Jewish people gather together, not learning Torah, the Shekhinah there is so powerful that even the miragle, even the spy, even the angel will not be able to survive over there.
I don't know if it says that sort of if she Kabbalah or if she Chassidus, if you have actually someone who's a Gentile, but in the future he's going to convert, does he already have a Jewish soul and he's waiting?
Yes, that's another question for another time. There's a ger. A ger has it's called a neshama of a ger, a soul of a ger. It says all those souls come from all the unions of Avram and Sarah before Avram Avinu had a bris. So that's where the souls of the gerim come from.
Okay.
But they definitely have a soul because it says Gershon is Gayer. It doesn't say a non-Jew converted. It says a convert who converted. Gershon is Gayer. I mean, they already, before they were born, they already had the soul of a ger.
And so they're waiting for the body to join up too.
Correct. What we say in Kabbalah says, begin the Kutsha Bichu Stalik Beyikre de Alma. When you have 10 people saying together, then Hashem is elevated throughout all the worlds. So the Maamar explains the word kedusha. You say in Hebrew, Kadosh, 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 right? Quoting Psukim of the Cheskel and Yirmiyahu of the angels in heaven of what they say. But in essence, it's so holy when you have 10 Jews together, especially davening. The holiness is so great that even the words of Lashon Kodesh, of Hebrew, of the Holy Tongue, cannot contain the holiness. We are merely repeating the words of Malachim, the angels say in heaven, during Shemini Esrei and during Kedusha. But when it comes to Kaddish, which we sanctify Hashem, that we do in Aramaic, if the angels, the Malachim, are not able to hear. And that, of course, can only be done with a minyan. And Hashem must always, so we see the greatness and importance of davening with a minyan. Rabbi Shalom Mordechai Rabashkin, I'm sure many of you remember his name. He was sitting in when he was in prison for many, many years, or as he says, a place called prison. And in the beginning, when he was sitting there were very few Jewish inmates, and unfortunately, with the years, there became more. But afterwards, they all miraculously, many of them were freed, and now there's a problem with the minyan again. And there were people which he brought closer to Yiddishkeit Jews in prison, and sometimes he found the Jewish prison guard to join for the minyan when there was no other choice. On Rosh Chodesh, there's a chapel there, and in a place called prison in Otisville, there's many, the Jewish prisoners there's more of them, and so they're able to receive more things than they have in other prisons. And there was one time on Rosh Chodesh, one of his lawyers called him up, and he said he's flying in from California to meet with him, and he can only meet during visiting hours, and so from this time to this time, he can meet. And it was exactly during the time that they arranged to make a minyan that day. And there was an appeal going on then, and it had very favorable, chances. And he says, we only have about 2.5 to 3 hours to meet, and what we really need to meet about should take a very long time. So we have to meet, every moment is precious. So come exactly at 9. He said, at 9, that's when the minyan starts. When everyone's allowed out of their cells, and that's when the minyan starts. And I'm not going to miss davening with the minyan. And he told him, I understand the minyan is very important for you, but this is extremely important. And for once, miss davening with the minyan. So he told the lawyer on the phone, do you think that any of your legal arguments are actually going to help me getting out of prison? It's not any of that is going to help me get out of prison. Right? It's only Hashem who helps me get out. And Hashem decides I'm here because I have a mission to do, and I'm going to leave when the mission is done. And therefore, I should not daven with the minyan, not do what Hashem wants. Definitely only do what Hashem wants. So we'll meet for less time. And I'm davening with the minyan, come what may. And so that's what he did. He davened with the minyan, and there was no rush. And he sang the whole Hallel at this, you get people excited. And it'll finish about an hour and 10 minutes later, Shachar is finished. And then from there, he goes to the visiting room where the lawyers are meant to meet him. And as he's down in the visiting room, as he's sitting down there looking for his lawyer, suddenly the lawyer comes running in, breathless, out of breath. And he says, what happened? He says, my flight from California got canceled. So I had to make myself another flight, which was a non-direct flight. And then I came late, and I came as quick as I could, and I, sped coming all the way up here, and I managed, and I got here just now. I came here right now. And after the meeting, which he says, the lawyer told him that he felt like, it was very successful, and, they went through a lot of things together. And he says, I feel like we accomplished a lot. And then he told him, you should know, I wasn't waiting for you from 9 o'clock in the morning. I was actually at the minyan, and I came in right now. And you see how it wouldn't have helped if I would have been waiting. The only thing would have happened is would have missed the minyan. Or maybe there wouldn't have been a minyan.
No, the lawyer was Jewish, in other words. The lawyer was...
No, lawyer, yeah, from lawyer.
Oh,
You see the importance of davening with a minyan, and one's never going to lose out in davening with a minyan.
oh, there's a lawyer who told me should miss minyan one time. It's up with you Jewish in front.
Correct.
Oh, yeah. Okay. I didn't realize that. I thought
Yassi, shalom aleichem. All right, we're up to the next part.
Shalom aleichem.
However, minyan, generally, you only need 10 people. You don't need 11 people. And many times, minyan would actually be one person saying out loud and everybody else listening, answering amen. You have to have at least 6 people who do not daven in order to make a minyan. So if you have, let's say, one person who, one person cannot make a minyan for themselves, some places they have a custom that they'll say Baruch Hu by themselves if they missed Baruch Hu in the beginning. A minyan also has to be sometimes 6 who didn't daven, sometimes 7. When it comes to Torah reading, Kriyas Torah, you need a Roiv HaNikar, not just a majority who didn't daven, but a sizable majority, which is 7 out of 10 who did not yet hear Kriyas Torah reading. The practice of standing up and sitting down to give a eulogy before the funeral is you need at least 10 people in order to do that. With fewer than 10 men, it's not done. What's the reason? Because Kivin the Boile Maamar, since the leader of the funeral procession, and they would say, Imdu Yekarim Amoidu, Shuvu Yekarim Shevu. Dear friends, stand up, dear friends. Sit down, dear friends, sit down. 7 different times. Batzir Me'asara Lav Oirech Ara. And it is not, with less than 10 people, it is not proper to speak in such a style. Yekarim means precious ones, honored ones, dear friends. And you need to have a sizable amount of people to speak in such a way. With 2 or 3 people, you don't speak in such a way. And therefore, you have to have at least a minyan when it comes to this. Other people say that there's quoting several psukim, several verses from Eicha. One of them is B'nei Tzion HaYekarim HaMusulayim Bapaz. The sons of Zion, the Jewish nation who came from, Yerushalayim, Tzion, and Tzion is not. It's sometimes Tzion is more of a euphemism for the city of Yerushalayim as opposed to the Beis Hamikdash, because Tzion is Har Tzion, the Mount Zion. Har Tzion is where that's where David HaMelech is buried, right? All the kings of Malchus David are buried on Har Tzion. So that's showing on the sovereignty of the Jews. There was no Beis Hamikdash yet during the time of David HaMelech. When we say the Beis Hamikdash, that is Har Tzion. Talk about the holy temple itself, but Zion itself, Zion itself, is not the Beis Hamikdash. It's not the holy part of the Jewish people. It's rather outside of the Beis Hamikdash, Har Tzion, and so we said B'nei Tzion HaYekarim HaMusulayim Bapaz, the honorable and the precious, the people of Tzion, of Zion, of the royalty and the rulership, the most honorable Jews, HaMusulayim Bapaz, which they wore gold and silk all the time, and these people now were on the streets begging for bread, and they were dying from hunger. As said in Eicha. These are one of the psukim, one of the verses that we say that are said during the Maamar Shabbos, during the sitting and standing, and therefore you shouldn't say it unless you have a minyan, because B'nei Tzion HaYekarim, talking about the honorable Jews, and to compare them to a small crowd of less than 10 people is not proper. To compare them to 10 people, that's a congregation, so that is a proper thing to do. And you need, I pulled up a picture. This is just one Sheva Brachas in Eretz Yisrael. I think.
Oh, I'm very tempted.
Correct. But there's a Sheva Brachas. You say, what's a difference between people in the country of Lithuania love to talk. So what's the difference between a Lithuanian funeral and a Lithuanian Sheva Brachas?
What's the difference?
So by the Lithuanian funeral, there's one less speaker. The Sheva Brachas must have at least 10 men in order to say these 7 blessings for a Chatan and a Kala, whether it's under the chuppah or whether it's afterwards. Why do you need 10 men? And why do you need 10 men for Birchas Avelim? We learn in the Mishnah that you must have at least a minyan, 10 men, to recite the blessings for a mourner and the blessings of a Chassan and Kala, the 7 Sheva Brachas. Why? So first, before saying why, my Birchas Avelim, what is the blessing of mourners? Have you ever seen it by a funeral? It says in Gemara, Birkas Rechava. It is a blessing which will take place in the square next to the cemetery. Following the burial, whoever was part of the funeral procession, they would gather in a square next to the cemetery or an empty field, and everybody would bless the mourners using a blessing which have Hashem's name in it, and tell them that they should be comforted. Some people say, the Meiri explains, they used to make a meal for the mourners right after they come back from the cemetery, and these are part of the Dinei, the laws of Avelus, which are explained in Mesechta Mayikatan. And Rashi over here on the page, if I could bring it up, Rashi over here brings up this bracha. I'm highlighting it over here, just in Hebrew. He says, Baruch atah Hashem, blessed you Hashem, Meshalim Agmul, V'lavelim, Meshalim Agmul. And for Lavelim, you say, Bal Necham Esinachem Eschem, Baruch atah Hashem, and Nachem Avelim. Right, so there's a special blessing that you say to the for the mourners. So this bracha has Hashem's name in it, and you want to comfort them. So you need at least a minyan.
What is the title of that bracha?
Baruch atah Hashem. So let's open the Gemara Ksubas, Ches Amud Beis. It has it over there too, just to have the full translation of the bracha. Is it? Here it is. Today's statement over here. Pasach Hakel Agadol Beroiv Godloi Adir V'Chazak Beroiv Nerois Michaya Mason B'Amor Isak Dolos Adin Cheker V'Niflois Adin Mispar Baruch Atah Hashem Michaya Mason. Here's Hashem, who is great in the abundance of His greatness, mighty and strong, in the abundance of His mighty and awesome His awesome deeds, who revives the dead, fulfillment of His statement, who does great deeds beyond comprehension, wondrous deeds without number. Blessed are you, Hashem, who revives the dead. And that's the birchas. That's the first bracha of the birchas menachamim, and then there's a second one over here. Is this paragraph over here? Baruch menachem avelim, but this paragraph, it's a long blessing over here. Achenu hamyugayim hamudekayim be'evel. Our brothers who are exhausted, overwhelmed by mourning, examine this. This that people pass away is established from the 6 days of creation. Many people have drunk the cup of death. Many people will drink. Our brothers, may Hashem comfort you. Baruch atah Hashem menachem avelim. So this is the text of the bracha over here in Ksubas Ches Amud Beis. The Amar Rabbi Yitzchok, Amar Rabbi Yochanan, says Rabbi Yitzchok in the name of Rabbi Yochanan. Birchas avelim ba'asara, ve'ein avelim min minyan. The bracha of mourners is done with 10 people, and the mourners cannot be counted as one of the 10, because you're blessing to the mourners, right? So the mourners cannot be the 10 people who are part of the 10. Or there's another reason, is because there's a second blessing called the Birchas Menachamim, the blessing that the Avel, the one who's mourning, says to the Menachem, the comforters, and to them there's another bracha, and the mourner has to say it to 10 people. So you need at least 11 people there. Birchas Chasanim ba'asara, the Chasanim min minyan. However, if you have a Sheva brachas, you need 10 people, 10 Jewish men. But the Chassan, the groom, could be one of the 10. Rabbeinu Yoina, familiar with him? Lived, he wrote Shaarei Teshuvah, one of the early books on Teshuvah, because in the beginning he was a opponent of the Rambam, after reading Mer Nevuchim, the God of the Perplexed. And he even said that the Rambam should be burnt, the book of the Rambam. And later on, he had tremendous, he did Teshuvah, tremendous regret for what he did the rest of his life, and he wrote Shaarei Teshuvah. And so Rabbeinu Yoina, he writes a difference between a chassan, who you need 10 people, and chassan is counted for Sheva brachas, and a mourner who you need 11 people, and the mourner is not counted. And he says a chassan is happy. Just like everyone else is happy, he is happy. But the mourner is sad, and no one else is as sad as the mourner. Another answer given is because another explanation is that a mourner, his mind is drifting, right? He's just coming straight from the funeral, right? His mind is a little occupied at that time. So you can't really count them for a minyan, because they have to pay attention to the brachas, pay attention to the blessings, and they can't devote proper attention.
At the Shiva of the davening, because I know it's an old name actually of for the mitzvahs, in the parts of the mitzvahs, but during the Shiva, isn't the word also included?
Well, Shiva is different.
Oh.
Once the person is buried, and they ate their meal afterwards, so then they no longer have a din of oneh. Now they have to make brachas on food, and then they have to put on tefillin and everything else. All the obligations revert back to them as well.
So when they came back from the funeral, they did the meal on the street. They made the blessing of the street. What did I miss there?
Yeah.
In the footnote.
Rus to Chabad.org. Chabad. I just want to, the story of Ruth and Naomi.
Yeah.
All right. Many people read it on Shavuos.
The famous convert Ruth.
Right. And Ruth and Naomi, not to do the entire story, I'm sure most, if not all of us, are familiar with it. They get married. And what does Boaz do? It says, Boaz called 10 men. Where is it? He says he called 10 men together when he married Ruth. I'm trying to find where it is exactly inside. It says over here. Here it says, and he took 10 men of the elders of the city, right? And then it says everything that Boaz spoke to them, right? About how is a relative who doesn't want to marry her. He asks a relative, he says, I don't want to marry her. Boaz married her in front of 10 men. He didn't call 9 men, he called 10 men. And that's when they got married. So from there we see that a chassan cannot be counted as part of the minyan. Our Gemara just said over here, the chassanim in a minyan, to make the blessings for Sheva Brachas, a chassan could be one of the 10. How come Boaz over here, he had to call 10 men of the elders of the city, and he himself was not one of the 10?
Oh, because he was the chassan.
So, but if he should have been one of the 10, if a chassan is allowed. So he says, because even a chassan, in certain situations, they cannot join the minyan. It says a chassan, until he first 3 days or until Bilas mitzvah, they're patur from Shema. They don't have to say Shema because they're also distracted by other things as well. So just like a mourner before the funeral cannot be counted for a minyan, after the funeral it could be counted for a minyan. So a chassan, you can say in a similar way, it could be counted for a minyan after the night of the wedding, but the night of the wedding he says no. So during the Sheva Brachas, right? During the Sheva Brachas, the chassan could be counted for a minyan throughout the week and afterwards, and especially the way we do it nowadays, is that there's a yichud room. So after the yichud room, the chassan could also be counted as one of the 10. But before that, a chassan cannot be counted as one of the 10 because his mind cannot focus on the matter at hand, on the minyan going on.
Nowadays, they should be don't pass it that way, do we?
Well, nowadays we don't pass in that way.
Because if the kavanah is not exactly
Right. Yeah, it's a whole different story. Right? Kavanah is not the same as we had.
Yeah.
We'll consider.
It's the biggest thing having by.
Continue now with Kuntres Umaayon. We're in the last chapter of Kuntres Umaayon. Let's we're recapping the entire everything we learned, what we could take home from all of this. Started off saying that some people follow their Yetzer Hara, and if a person looks objectively, let's say if my friend, you could judge him very easily, they're doing the wrong thing, or are they just being stupid by doing what they're doing? When it comes to themselves, they don't see it many times, because by myself, you always judge myself for the good. But following the Yetzer Hara is called a shtus, it's a foolishness, it's a folly, and a person many times will not realize to what extent it is. Someone was already succumbed to the nonsense and delusions of the Yetzer Hara, in any of the ways we said before. Whether it means a person enjoying physical pleasures, to look for physical pleasures that are very good, or a person can feel how good this is. This person has the newest model iPhone. This person has the newest model car. This person has the newest signed this, signed that. And it's very easy to fall into that hole of going after physical objects. Because you feel how important it is. And this causes a person to feel coarse and realizing that it's not good for him at all. So they're going to wait for 3 days and 3 nights in the rain and the sleet and the snow to get a glimpse of someone they think is very famous. When it's not, what good does it do for them? And God forbid, even when it comes to forbidden things, and the Yetzer Hara will dull his abilities to reason and to recognize that what he thinks is really good, it's not really good. And more than that, it covers over the truth. And the Yetzer Hara tells him, as we learned in the early chapters of Kuntres Umaayon, the Yetzer Hara will tell the person, so what? I did something wrong today. All is good. I'll do it wrong again. I can still be a good Jew, even if I do things that are not good. And I'm a Jew just like I was before. Nothing will change. I'm someone who could handle a lot of things like that, right? And he will tell himself in his heart, everything will be good. I will have peace. And as we explained before, it will be even better for me now. And more than that, something I do wrong, it's in my bedroom. No one's ever going to know about it. And therefore, I'll be a good Jew, just like the way I was before, and nobody will ever know. And nobody will ever know. And all these things are illusions. All these things are literally delusions, falsehoods, sheker muchlat, and completely not true, complete falsehood. As you said before, that first of all, don't think a person could keep a secret forever. Everyone will eventually find out anyways, one way or the other. Second of all, it's not for your good, it's for your detriment. And third of all, it will dull your Yiddishkeit, it will dull your excitement and sensitivity to Yiddishkeit if a person goes after their taivas, after their desires and wants, whether it's physical or in other ways. And another way, which is many people, is they get older, you get more mature, and some people, the Yetzer Hara never matures. Some people, the Yetzer Hara has also matures, besides for wanting what it wanted before. And it wants more money. And I'll do anything for money. And I'll make a fool of myself, or I'll run to the ends of the earth, or even in a more subtle way, I won't daven today, I won't learn today, I won't go for daven with a minyan today to make money. Some people will be a little bit different, that they're going to involve themselves in their business affairs. And they're ready from, first thing in the morning is waiting till the pre-markets to read all the reports and then to run around and maybe get something before everyone else gets it. And he's going to make trades and schemes the entire day, how to make another buck and how to do it this way and that way. Until it stops him from learning Torah, from davening. And he adds a third word, kedabai, and he hints to another whole paragraph where he says sometimes he can learn a daven, but he has no attention for it. Right now his attention is somewhere else entirely. He doesn't have the headspace for it, because he's head over heels inside of his business, trying to run after the next dollar, trying to get ahead. And such a thing could disturb him from davening properly, from learning properly. And so that's in another way the shtus of the nefesh bahamis, of the animal soul. And because the person finds himself so immersed in one of these things, either to fulfill my next desire, my next want, the next latest trend, or to just get ahead in life, or say to survive, I need to not learn and daven, I can't do any of this. And these are the Yetzer Hara working on a person's weaknesses, always finding the weakest spot, soft spot of the Yetzer Hara of the person. And the Yetzer Hara's goal is not to have a person stop there, but he wants him to go off of the correct path, And a person says, I can't win my Yetzer Hara. Because of all the previously said reasons and calculations, I need to make money, or one day I'll make money and then I'll have plenty of time one day. Or I'm just a very naturally excitable person. I get excited by these things. I get angry by these things. I get this, I get that. Or it's not my fault. Not my fault. I was raised with the parents I was raised. Not my fault. I was in an environment where I am. And all of these things we went through one by one in Kuntres Umaayon. And the Yetzer Hara, as time goes on, becomes harder and harder to budge from its place. It becomes more and more formidable. It says in Tanya, chapter 13, we're quoting, the Adarabah nischazeg yosher b'meshech hazman shenishtamesh b'harbe achilo shtia shar nyan el mazeh. Your nefesh b'amis, your animal soul, becomes stronger and stronger because you're eating and you're drinking and you're involved in this world much more than when you're young. And therefore, when you're young, you can be more sensitive and more excited. When when a Yom Tov comes for a child, their excitement is over the roof. An adult, comes a Yom Tov. It can even be Sukkot. Could be a Yom Tov and another Yom Tov is coming in the middle of Purim. So they'll fall asleep. Right? Does it come because they're smarter? It says the mashal given is that the young sheep and the old sheep were let out together from the pen to go eat the grass. The young sheep were dancing and jumping, and running around, and the old sheep were slow moving. And you think it's because the old sheep are wiser and smarter, or rather, it's because the old sheep just have a much heavier place to sit down on, right? A much heavier bottom because they're ate and drink over the years, and that's why they can't move as quickly.
They're tired.
They're tired. And if one constantly indulges their nefesh, their physical body, right, then their sensitivity to godliness, their attention can't be focused in such a place. If he comes to a place, finds something that he's totally into and that he's so involved and excited in, right away, the animalistic part of them will overcome any type of logic or reasoning. And he loses any knowledge, any rationality. And he's overwhelmed and reacts to his natural animal response and makes a fool of himself automatically. Even more than that, such a person, his godly soul is not so strong. He has not exercised it. It's a muscle which he hasn't exercised, and now you have the other side getting stronger. The tukva, the gufa, chulsha v'nishmasa, the famous line, the strength of the body is a weakness of the neshama. If one focuses all their focus on the physical body, then their neshama, their soul, becomes dimmed. It's not a contradiction to what it says that a hole in the body is a hole in the soul, because that's something else. That's taking care of yourself to make sure you're healthy. But that should be your sole focus. Walking around this and that, and the whole day, it's how many calories are in this, and how many this are in that, and that's removing a person's focus from where it's supposed to be. I'd rather focus on the kedusha, the holy place. And because of all this, the final result is that such a person, which we discussed in throughout Kuntres Umaayon, cannot be guided by reason, by thought, by honest calculation. Because of the nefesh ma'amis, animal soul, Yitzhahara, which has been so strengthened, so strong. So what could we do about it? That we're going to learn in Mitzvah Hashem tomorrow. And with